most players go down in history for what happens on the field, nothing etches a football player into the sports lore faster than a great nickname. From Slabhead to Chicharito to El Fenomeno, every nickname tells a unique story, so that's why we're breaking down the best football nicknames of all time. And who better to start off with than Givanildo Vieira de Sousa, or, as he's more commonly known, Hulk. While most footballers are lean and athletic-looking, the Brazilian forward was so muscular that he almost resembled the iconic cartoon character Hulk. People had been talking about Hulk's extraordinary strength from an early age. His father was a fan of the American superhero during his younger years and nicknamed his son Hulk after noticing his naturally muscular physique as a child. In a later interview, the former Porto star claimed, "I must have been Hulk since I was 3 or 4 years old because of my obsession with lifting things. I couldn't see a gas can, a kitchen table, a wardrobe, or a pan cabinet without wanting to lift it off the floor." Had Hulk developed into a skinny adult footballer, his nickname might have struggled to stick. But when the Brazilian first burst onto the scene as an 18-year-old in 2004, his arms and legs bulged compared to his teammates. As the forward's reputation grew, he became synonymous with his nickname and superhuman strength. While training for Zenit St. Petersburg, he went viral after striking a shot so powerfully it caused the ball to explode. His ginormous frame towered over the shattered ball. Even Hulk was surprised by his power. Speaking of power, former Swansea City, Northampton Town, and Wycombe Wanderers striker Adebayo Akinfenwa was arguably the most physically imposing and intimidating striker to ever play professional football, earning him the nickname Beast. The nickname was popularized by British YouTuber KSI after he noticed that Akinfenwa's 98 strength rating on FIFA 12 made him the strongest player in the game. EA's rating wasn't an exaggeration of the hulking Englishman's strength. It's reported that the 102-kilogram footballer bench presses 180 kilograms. Having never played above the second tier of English football, the Beast became better known for a bodybuilder-like physique than trophy lifts. After netting over 200 times in the lower leagues, Akinfenwa eventually launched a clothing line labeled Beast Mode On. The forward published his autobiography, The Beast, My Story, in 2017, detailing what it's like to play professional football with an unusual physique. Today, he remains a popular online figure and continues to take advantage of the unique physique that earned him his nickname and cult following. One footballer who has a cult following as large as some of the game's biggest ever names is World Cup and Champions League winning forward Fernando Torres. But before the Spanish forward finished third in the 2008 Ballon d'Or and inspired a generation with an iconic on-pitch aesthetic, Torres was a teenage Atletico Madrid forward who simply couldn't stop scoring. When Torres made his Atleti debut aged 17, many teammates and media pundits didn't know the mesmerizing forward's name, so they nicknamed him El Niño, which translates to the kid in English. After scoring 38 goals in his opening 3 full La Liga seasons, El Niño became the Spanish club's youngest ever captain, reinforcing the idea that a once unknown kid was equipped to take over football. Torres transferred to Liverpool in 2007, but his El Niño tag wouldn't be forgotten. Copite supporters affectionately referred to their new superstar striker as El Niño, and he appeared in a Nike commercial that highlighted their adoption of Spanish culture due to Torres. But it was Atletico Madrid supporters who truly owned the El Niño nickname. After lifting the game's biggest prizes, Torres returned to his home club as a globally recognized star. The kid finally lifted the Europa League with Atleti as a 34-year-old man, but local supporters will always remember him as the mystery striker who made them dream during his teenage years. Another likable former Premier League forward with a nickname that follows him like a shadow is Javier Hernandez. The Mexican wore Chicharito, which translates to Little P on the back of his jerseys, a nickname that's become synonymous with his family for decades. The Chicharito nickname was first given to Javier's father, also named Javier. Javier Sr. represented Mexico throughout the 80s and 90s and was given the Chicharito nickname in reference to his piercing green eyes. Years later, his son replicated his heroics and made it to the Mexico squad for the 2010 World Cup. The father was desperate to watch his son represent his country and quit his job when they denied him time off to watch Javier in South Africa. The father and son have an endearing bond, which Javier honored by emblazoning Chicharito on his shirt. The former Man United and Bayer Leverkusen star's nickname became so widely used that many were unsure whether his real name was Hernandez or Chicharito. When the eventual all-time Mexico top scorer signed for Man United in 2010, he became among the first Premier League footballers to have an unofficial name on the back of his shirt. That must have helped start a trend of Premier League footballers placing nicknames on the back of their shirts because Sergio Aguero became the next well-known star to use an unofficial name. The Argentine forward used Kun rather than Sergio Aguero on the back of his jerseys, paying homage to a childhood nickname given to him by his grandparents. Sergio's grandparents called him Kun due to his apparent resemblance to the Japanese cartoon character Kum Kum, who was ever present on the family's television. Kum Kum was a troublesome character, a trait Sergio at least partially adopted. Despite his laid-back demeanor, the Man City forward would cause nightmares for opposition defenders with his clever movement, strength, and technique. The nickname was befitting beyond its association with Kum Kum. In the Japanese language, Kun is used by superiors, such as teachers or coaches, to describe men or young boys of lower status. For these reasons, Sergio's legendary bosses Diego Maradona and Pep Guardiola didn't mind calling the striker Kun. Meanwhile, Premier League rules stated that for the iconic striker to have an unofficial name on the back of his jersey, he'd have to prove that he had done so in other leagues. Fortunately, Sergio had always used Kun on the back of his Atletico Madrid jerseys during his stint in La Liga. From one Atleti great to another, Koke's real name always shocks football fans. The Madrid-born midfielder lifted La Liga twice and featured over 70 times for Spain, but few know his real name is Jorge Resurrección Merodio. As with many footballers, the nickname dates back to childhood. Koke's younger brother, instead of saying Jorge, would shout Koke. By the time the younger brother's pronunciation had improved, Jorge was already getting called Koke more frequently. By the time he arrived at Atletico Madrid's academy as an 8-year-old, teammates, coaches, and wider family members were already calling him Koke. When the 5'9" anchorman made his full professional debut against Barcelona at the Nou Camp, he wore Koke rather than Jorge on the back of his Atletico jersey. The midfielder would go on to build legend status at his boyhood club, becoming an embodiment of the largely successful Diego Simeone era and having adoring fans chanting Koke from the terraces. Yet the Spaniard concedes that not everybody refers to him as Koke. Sometimes when my mom got angry, she would call me by my real name, Jorge. But the wider football world will never know the Atleti star as anything other than Koke. And using a nickname entirely different to their birth name is more common than you might imagine among footballers. For example, few football fans know the name Luis Carlos Almeida de Cunha. But what if we told you that that's the birth name of Man United's former tricky Portuguese winger, Nani? The Old Trafford star played with an abundance of personality, blowing up with the occasional tantrum across his illustrious 19-year career. The winger's meltdowns during the mid-2000s made him appear as if he needed a nanny, which makes his nickname even more amusing. The tag was originally given to him by his sister while he was a baby. She thought Nani sounded cute, and somehow the nickname has stuck with him ever since. Keeping the nickname made sense though. The Portugal star was abandoned by his parents, so using a name that isn't associated with traumatic family ties might feel liberating. He wore Nani on the back of his shirt as the winger lifted 4 Premier Leagues, a Champions League, and a European Championship. Yet many of the Old Trafford faithful were unaware that their charismatic winger was going by a nickname. The same cannot be said for Harry Maguire, who has an amusing nickname that's noticeably different from his birth name. Supporters up and down the United Kingdom refer to the meme center back as Slabhead, referencing his unusually large forehead. The tag was first given to Maguire by Leicester City teammate Jamie Vardy, who humorously asked the defender, "How big is the diameter of your head?" while he was giving an interview at England camp before the 2018 World Cup. For a period of time, Maguire's large head became the talk of the nation. Slabhead performed excellently at the 2018 World Cup, notching a header in the quarterfinals against Sweden. Many claim that Maguire physically had a large head, but he wasn't big-headed or egotistical. However, the public perception of Maguire changed during the 2020s as off-field drama and poor performances turned the defender into a meme. He was no longer mocked for having a large head, but also for his catalog of errors while playing for Man United. To Maguire's credit, he's remained resilient and determined despite digs at his appearance and performances throughout the years. After all, it would have been understandable for the Man United man to become a sulking prima donna. That's an accusation former France forward Nicolas Anelka faced during the late 90s and early 2000s, as reporters nicknamed him Le Incredible Sulk. The Paris Saint-Germain trainee was among the world's most exciting strikers, with many tipping Anelka to become the world's best player. When he transferred to Arsenal in 1997, the media and supporters alike questioned Anelka's attitude. The Frenchman performed on the pitch with an expressionless face and an aloof personality, offering him little rest from tabloid headlines. During a mixed 2-year spell in North London, media started to dub Anelka as Le Sulk, claiming his characterless demeanor epitomized everything that was wrong with the Premier League's newfound wealth. Yet, this was only the beginning of Anelka's toxic relationship with the British press. His contract disagreements and transfer requests during his early career reinforced the idea that the Frenchman was a sulking genius, while Anelka was often accused of chasing financial gain over football accolades. In fact, Anelka stayed at each of Arsenal, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Paris Saint-Germain, Fenerbahce, and Bolton Wanderers for less than 2 years and rejected France call-ups outside of his prime years. As sensational as Anelka was during his prime, it's hard to argue that the forward's Le Sulk nickname isn't befitting of his alleged constant fallouts and questionable work ethic. Some argue that the late 90s superstar could have reached the levels of the great Ronaldo Nazario had he shown more discipline, but we're unsure because the electric Brazilian forward was nicknamed O Fenomeno, translating to the phenomenon, for good reason. The former Inter Milan star had tons of nicknames, including R9, Stepover King, and, less flatteringly, Tubby Ronaldo, but none described him as perfectly as O Fenomeno. Ronaldo's electric pace, dribbling skills, and finishing earned him the O Fenomeno nickname while playing for Inter during the late 90s. As the Brazilian hit 25 goals during his opening Serie A campaign, commentators, pundits, and fans were running out of words to describe the generational talent. Eventually, O Fenomeno stuck. The nickname suited Ronaldo perfectly. It meant there wasn't a need to constantly over-describe his extraordinary pieces of play. Purring onlookers could just say, O Fenomeno. Despite the flattery from the Italian press, R9 wasn't initially on board with his nickname. In an interview, he suggested that was an extra pressure which was unnecessary. I already had enough pressure, I did not need any more. Yet the nickname helped boost Ronaldo Nazario's marketing appeal to another level. Today, Nike regularly uses the tag in commercials. It's been the title of a film about the Brazilian's trophy-filled career and makes the forward instantly distinctive from the game's other all-time greats. Similarly, all-time Man United great Eric Cantona has a nickname that sets him apart from the other Old Trafford and Premier League legends. The maverick French forward was affectionately nicknamed King by worshipping Man United supporters. While Cantona's leadership and technical brilliance on the pitch earned him thousands of admirers, it was the Frenchman's artistic swagger that resonated with supporters so deeply. He played with confidence, creativity, and an attitude that made him unique among footballers. Many superstar talents appear emotionless or out of touch with ordinary match-going supporters, but Cantona's personality made him seem almost regal, like a king. And, like any great king, Cantona helped bring unprecedented wealth and glory to Manchester. He landed United's first top-flight trophy for 26 years in 1993 and clinched 3 more over the following 4 seasons. As the poster boy of Man United's 90s revival, Cantona truly became a king in part of the world where football is treated as seriously as religion. The legendary Premier League forward has since been depicted in the media as a king on numerous occasions. Most notably, Cantona sat on a throne with a crown as Loyal Carner produced spoken word over an EA Sports commercial, while the Frenchman also appeared in a Liam Gallagher music video dressed as a king. And United fans have a thing for giving their players nicknames because Cantona's Norwegian strike partner Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was called the baby-faced assassin by the Old Trafford faithful. In contrast to Cantona's imposing king-like aura, Solskjaer was slightly introverted and youthful-looking, but equally lethal in front of goal and adored by United supporters. When Ole arrived at Manchester from Molde in 1996, supporters and players alike struggled to believe he was the man who'd lead the line for the Premier League's serial winners. He had a slender, underdeveloped build with an appearance that resembled a secondary school student rather than a superstar striker. Despite looking like a 12-year-old, Solskjaer quickly broke into the United first team with his humility earning the respect of Sir Alex and his teammates. During Solskjaer's opening Premier League campaign, he found the back of the net on 18 occasions. His finishing skills were deadly. His status became global, but the initially shy center forward remained equally childlike in appearance, making the baby-faced assassin a natural nickname. When Ole returned to Old Trafford to become United's first team manager in 2018, the then 45-year-old Norwegian still had a remarkably youthful appearance and an innocent smile that made it hard to believe he was once among the world's most ruthless attackers. Solskjaer is surely the only person on the planet who carries the baby-faced assassin nickname, but the next player on our list is more commonly known for a label given to thousands of Portuguese-speaking children. In Portuguese-speaking countries, children who regularly miss words while speaking are nicknamed de cozinho. During the mid-80s, there was an emerging Brazilian boy superstar who spoke with less elegance and accuracy than many of his peers, Anderson Luiz de Souza. With his speaking skills still developing, his uncle nicknamed him with the label he's now instantly recognized with across the world, Deco. That's right, the 2-time Champions League winning extraordinaire is actually called Anderson Luiz de Souza, not Deco. When the creative midfielder arrived at Benfica in 1997, the nickname hadn't left the midfielder despite him speaking in fluent and cohesive sentences. In fact, Deco became known for his tactical nose and off-field intelligence, making his nickname of being illiterate appear outdated. The maestro didn't seem to mind as he lifted Champions League titles with Porto and Barcelona under the nickname during the mid-2000s, becoming one of the era's defining players. However, some players have less choice about whether or not they're known by a nickname. Just ask former Chelsea fullback Cesar Azpilicueta, who was nicknamed Dave by the West London faithful. The Spanish defender helped Chelsea to Premier League and Champions League glory, but that didn't make his name any easier for English supporters to pronounce. Likewise, teammates who welcomed Azpilicueta to the club, like John Terry, Frank Lampard, and Ashley Cole, struggled to pronounce his name, so they referred to their new signing as Dave. It was a reference to British comedy Only Fools and Horses, where Trigger is unable to pronounce or remember the name of Rodney, so he calls him Dave instead. Azpilicueta stayed with the London club for 11 seasons, becoming part of the furniture at Stamford Bridge and winning the affection of the supporters. By the end of his 11-year stay, Azpilicueta may as well have been English, and the Dave label often felt a little more befitting tag for the Spanish-born defender. When the 2021 Champions League winner announced that he'd depart Chelsea in 2023, his social media post signed off with, "Your captain, Cesar Azpilicueta, aka Dave." It shows that iconic nicknames that stick are usually reserved for those who build special relationships with supporters and become recognizable for endearing attributes beyond their playing style, such as personality, loyalty, and cultural background.